Let's move to Ukraine now, which has endured a third day of Russian missile strikes. It's an escalation which US Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin says lays bare the malice and cruelty of the war. Well, we'll be getting more on those attacks shortly. But first, let's take a look at the diplomatic developments. The Defence Secretaries of over 50 Western countries have been meeting at the headquarters of the NATO Defensive Alliance in Brussels. They have pledged to continue sending military hardware to Ukraine, they say, for as long as it takes. So that's a message echoed by the G7 group of powerful countries. Let's hear a little from Secretary Austin.
Ukraine's forces have used systems like HIMARS to change the dynamics of the war that Putin started. And that's helped Ukrainian forces seize the initiative during their counteroffensive. So we'll continue to rush in the capabilities to help Ukraine in the current fight. And I commend the contact group members who have moved heaven and earth to get weapons and equipment into the hands of the Ukrainian forces.
Well, we've also heard from Germany.
Germany has delivered a state-of-the-art defense system to Ukraine. It's important support for Ukraine in its fight against these missile attacks, this terror the population is being subjected to. It is one system, and next year another 3 of these air defense systems will follow.
Well, both pledges have been welcomed by the Ukrainian president. He has been calling for an air shield against future Russian attacks. Let's remind ourselves of what he said just on Tuesday.
I ask you to increase your joint efforts to help financially to create the air shields for Ukraine. Millions of people will be grateful to the Group of 7.
Well, we are expecting to hear more military pledges as this week goes on. But in the meantime, we have heard from France just in the past hour. President Macron has promised radar systems and also missiles for Ukraine. Then there's the Netherlands. They have promised over $14 million worth of missiles. Estonia has also outlined its commitments. Here is its defence minister speaking to the BBC.
First, we will give ammunition, which is still very much needed. And second part is the winter gear. So we will give two brigades full winter gear, clothing, everything added to that. And thirdly, we will also give the bulletproof vests for 3 brigades. So it's quite a lot considering our size and our possibilities, but it's not the time at the moment to think will it somehow affect also our own capabilities. We need to help Ukraine and we need to help them now as soon as possible.
The BBC has also been getting reaction from one Ukrainian MP.
I think it's important to understand that Russian Federation has been escalating its military attacks on Ukrainian civilians, on the civilian infrastructure. And that's why we are asking for really increased efforts from our partners to step up with their support with the air defense, but also with the weaponry that would allow us to conduct further the counteroffensives.
Let's also hear from Jessica Parker. She's at the NATO headquarters in Brussels, where that meeting has been taking place.
We heard from the Canadians earlier today. They're talking about providing winter hats, boots and gloves, just so frontline soldiers have the proper gear that they might need this winter as the conflict enters a new phase. And I think more broadly as well, in terms of how long this could last, countries are potentially digging in for the long haul in terms of trying to supply weapons to Ukraine, but also build up their own bases again or replenish their own weapons stocks. And so what you've heard quite a lot surrounding this summit is work ongoing with the defence industry to try and get that industrial base in a position to meet those demands longer term, as also you see countries pledging higher defence spending.
Well, we mentioned that Russian strikes have intensified over the past few days. I want to bring you a map showing you where they have been targeted. You can see the western city of Lviv, that's among the targets. It has rarely been hit before, apart from at the very beginning of the war. There's also been strikes in the capital, Kyiv, and these are the latest pictures we have for you from there. This is showing the aftermath. We've been hearing from a resident of Kyiv who lives there with her 3 children.
Well, when the bombings began, I was about to take my kids to the dentist, and we were about to, drive this road that was hit by Russian missile. But we didn't drive there because there were explosions. So instead, I took them to the basement.
Now, another city we know that has been targeted is Zaporizhia, and there have been several explosions reported there. And that is important because the city is also home to an atomic energy site. Let's take a look at it. It's Europe's largest. It was captured by the Russians, you might remember, early on in the invasion, and the plant lost power earlier today. Now, although it has been restored, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency said the outage had been caused by shelling and damage to a substation, and that the situation there remains precarious. A little earlier, the US president had this to say about the attacks.
What's your reaction to recent Russian attacks on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine?
Same as always, man. It's brutal. It's beyond the pale.